Somewhere in the Arabian desert, there are the foundations of a palace, not ruins of something that grew there naturally over centuries, foundations of something that was deliberately built, stone by stone, room by room, as an exact replica of the royal palace of Babylon, the greatest palace in the ancient world, reconstructed in the middle of a desert oasis 2,000 miles from the original. The man who built it was the king of Babylon. He built it because he wasn't planning on going back. His name was Nabonidus. He was the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the man who inherited the most powerful city on earth, and then, in the 17th year of his reign, was living in a tent in Arabia, writing about ancient gods, while his son, Belshazzar, ran an empire alone. Belshazzar died on the night Babylon fell. Nabonidus outlived him. And this is what happens when a king decides that everything he was given is less important than everything he is looking for, and what that decision costs the person left holding it.
In 600 BC, Babylon is the largest city on Earth. Its outer walls run 17 miles in circumference. They are 90 feet high and 22 feet thick enough that 2 chariots can race side by side along the top. A moat surrounds them. Beyond the moat, a second wall. The Euphrates River runs directly through the center of the city, feeding a network of canals that reach every district. At night, the city does not go dark. Oil lamps line the processional roads, burning in iron brackets bolted to the walls. The Ishtar Gate rises 50 feet above the entrance to the inner city, covered in blue-glazed brick and sculpted dragons and bulls, their surfaces catching the light in a way that travelers who see it for the first time cannot find words for. The ziggurat of Marduk, the great stepped temple at the center of the city, rises higher than anything visible for 50 miles in every direction.
Inside this city live hundreds of thousands of people speaking 40 different languages. Merchants from Egypt, from Persia, from the Indus Valley, from the Greek coast. Scribes maintaining the most sophisticated administrative record system in the ancient world. Priests performing rituals whose lineage stretches back 2,000 years. This is what the Neo-Babylonian Empire is at its height under Nebuchadnezzar, the king who sacked Jerusalem, who carried the Jews into captivity, who rebuilt Babylon until it surpassed everything that had come before it. Nebuchadnezzar dies in 562 BC. What comes after him is a slow unraveling that takes 23 years to complete. 4 kings in 6 years, 2 of them assassinated. The empire consuming itself from the inside, one conspiracy at a time. And then, in 556 BC, from the chaos of the court, a man steps forward who was never supposed to be king.
Nabonidus takes power. His name before he was king was nothing particularly remarkable. A palace official, a courtier, a man who had spent decades in the rooms where power was exercised without ever holding it directly. He comes to the throne in his 50s or 60s, old by the standards of the ancient world for a new beginning. The boy king before him was assassinated in a conspiracy 9 months into his reign. From the beginning, he is an anomaly. Every king of Babylon performs a set of obligations so old they predate the city itself. The central one is the Akitu, the New Year festival. On the 5th day of the first month, the king of Babylon enters the Esagila, the great temple of Marduk, and takes the hand of the god. Not metaphorically, physically, reaching up to the statue and clasping it. The ritual is the annual renewal of the king's mandate to rule. Without it, the relationship between the king and Marduk is technically suspended. The king's legitimacy, in the eyes of the priesthood and the city, lapses. No Babylonian king had skipped this ritual in living memory. Nabonidus skips it in his first year.
His mother was a priestess of Sin, the moon god, worshipped primarily in Haran in northern Syria. Nabonidus grew up inside Sin's cult. He believes that Sin is the supreme deity, above Marduk, above all the other gods of the Babylonian pantheon. He builds temples to Sin. He relocates sacred statues. He talks about Sin in his inscriptions with a directness that reads less like royal piety and more like personal conviction. The priests of Marduk notice. They begin writing propaganda against him. They call him impious. They call him a destroyer of tradition. They write that Marduk himself is angry. Nabonidus ignores them. He campaigned successfully in Edom and Cilicia in his early years, a competent military king when he applies himself to it. He maintains the empire's borders. He performs administrative duties. He is not a weak man. He is a distracted one. And somewhere during those early campaigns, riding through the desert south of the empire's borders, he encounters the oasis city of Tamar.
In 553 BC, Nabonidus makes a decision that has no precedent in the history of Babylon. He appoints his son Belshazzar as regent. He gives him command of the army, authority over the administration, the right to receive oaths and grant privileges. He gives him everything a king can give, except the title and the right to stand in the Esagila and take the hand of Marduk. Then he leaves. He marches south with a military escort into the Arabian desert to the oasis of Tamar, and he does not come back for 10 years. He arrives at Tamar and kills its ruling prince. He installs himself as the city's new master. He forces its population to work, building him a palace, an exact replica, stone by stone, of the royal palace he has just left behind in Babylon. He builds his replica capital, and then he begins excavating.
Nabonidus is, among other things, the world's first archaeologist. He digs through the foundations of ancient temples, looking for older foundations beneath them. He finds inscriptions from kings who ruled 1,000 years before him and copies them verbatim. He attempts to date artifacts by cross-referencing them with other artifacts. He records his findings with a methodical precision that no one in the ancient world has previously applied to the study of the past. He is utterly absorbed. Meanwhile, in Babylon, Belshazzar is trying to hold an empire together with one hand tied behind his back. Belshazzar is not a foolish man. He is a capable administrator and a competent soldier. He manages the army. He oversees the grain supply. He receives foreign delegations and issues decrees and keeps the machinery of empire moving through sheer force of attention and competence. But the machinery was not built to run without a king. Every year, the Akitu festival arrives and cannot be performed. The priests stand in the Esagila, and the statue of Marduk does not move, and the new year is not renewed, and the city's religious calendar skips a beat it was never designed to skip, 7 times in a row.
Every military commander in the empire knows that the man issuing orders is not technically the king. Every provincial governor knows it. Every priest knows it. And Cyrus of Persia, who is watching all of this from the east as he systematically absorbs kingdom after kingdom, knows it too. Cyrus is a propagandist of genius. He does not simply conquer, he offers a story, a narrative in which the kings he defeats are illegitimate, impious, abandoned by their gods, and he is the restorer of proper order. It is a story that requires very little fabrication when the king of Babylon has not performed the New Year festival in 7 years, and is currently living in an Arabian desert, excavating ruins. The Babylonian priests of Marduk begin to listen. They stop defending Nabonidus. They stop writing on his behalf. They let the silence speak. And in the courts of the ancient world, silence from the priests of the chief god is as loud as a declaration.
Belshazzar watches this happening. He does what he can. He writes to his father. Nabonidus stays in Tama, and only by 543 BC he finally returns to Babylon. He has been gone for 10 years. He finds an empire that has spent a decade learning to function without him, and has largely concluded that it cannot. Provincial loyalties are fractured, military command structures are confused, the priesthood is cold, the population, aware that Persian armies have been rolling through the region, is beginning to perform the ancient calculation that all civilian populations perform when empires collide. Which side do I want to be on when this ends? Nabonidus is back for 6 years before the end comes. 6 years to repair what 10 years away had damaged. He does not manage it. 539 BC. Cyrus invades Babylonia. He does not march straight for Babylon. He is methodical. He takes the cities around it first, Opis, Sippar, absorbing the defensive perimeter, cutting off supply lines, positioning his forces. He is patient. He has already learned the most important thing about Babylon. You do not need to break those walls if you can empty the city's will to defend them. His propaganda operation is running at full strength. He is circulating the message that Marduk himself has called him to restore Babylon, that the god, insulted by Nabonidus' neglect, has chosen a Persian king to do what the Babylonian king refused to. It is an extraordinary claim. The priests of Marduk do not contradict it. Some of them actively support it. The men whose entire institutional existence is bound to the city of Babylon, who have lived inside those walls for generations, who have maintained those temples and performed those rituals, are willing to welcome a Persian conqueror because at least he has promised to perform the Akitu, that at least he will take the hand of Marduk. Nabonidus takes his army out to meet the Persians in the field. He loses. He flees. He is at Borsippa, another city south of Babylon, when the capital falls. He is not in Babylon on the last night. Belshazzar is. October the 11th, 539 BC. The Persian army is camped outside the walls. The outer defensive cities have fallen. Nabonidus is somewhere to the south, retreating. Belshazzar throws a feast. This is not the act of a man who has lost his mind. This is the act of a man who has looked at the walls surrounding him and made a calculation based on every precedent available. Those walls are 90 feet high, 22 feet thick, 17 miles around. They have a moat. They have towers, more than 100 of them. The Euphrates runs through the city itself, supplying water. The grain stores can sustain the population for years. In the entire history of Babylon, those walls have never been breached by force. Not once. Belshazzar has no particular reason to believe tonight will be different. So he holds a feast for 1,000 nobles. He brings out the gold and silver vessels, the sacred cups looted from the temple in Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar decades before, and he fills them with wine. It is an act of confidence, the kind of gesture a man makes when he wants to signal to his court that he is not afraid, that the walls will hold. Outside the city, upstream along the Euphrates, something is happening that Belshazzar does not know about. Cyrus's engineers have been working for weeks on a diversion, a system of trenches and channels dug in silence, designed to redirect the flow of the Euphrates into a reservoir to the west of the city. The river that runs under Babylon's walls, the river that fills the moats, the river that makes the city, in conventional military terms, impregnable. They open the channels that night. The water level inside the city begins to drop. In the dark, along the now shallow riverbed, Persian soldiers move. They wade through water that comes to their knees, then their shins, then ankle deep, moving under the city's walls through the gaps where the river enters the city. The walls tower above them, 90 feet of mud brick and silence.
Inside, somewhere above them, the noise of the feast. The gates where the river passes under the walls are designed to be guarded. Iron grates, heavy doors, checkpoints where anyone passing through is stopped and questioned. Tonight, the guards are at the feast. The gates are open. The soldiers walk through. In the center of the city, the celebration continues. The wine is still flowing. The nobles are still talking. The sacred cups are still being passed around the tables. No alarm has been raised because the people dancing in the streets 2 miles away will not know their city has fallen until morning. The walls are so vast, the city so large, that the news moves through it slowly, district by district, like water finding its level.
In the palace, Belshazzar learns what is happening before the city does. He does not surrender, he does not flee. He is killed inside the palace on the night of October the 12th as the Persian soldiers move through the city that was never supposed to fall. He is the last man standing in an empire his father left him. He dies in it. Babylon falls on October the 12th, not with a siege, not with a battle, with a river, a gate left open, and a party. Belshazzar is killed inside the palace that night, and Nabonidus surrenders separately, somewhere outside the walls, far away from Babylon. Cyrus grants him his life, not as mercy, as policy. Cyrus grants everyone clemency. It costs him nothing and buys him everything. An empire that surrenders peacefully is an empire that doesn't need to be rebuilt. Nabonidus is exiled to Carmania, a province in the east. He lives. And in Carmania, he does what he has always done. He writes, he documents, he records the gods he honors and the temples he has restored and the campaigns he remembers. He leaves behind more inscriptions than any other Neo-Babylonian king, more than Nebuchadnezzar, more than any man who actually held the empire together. He writes about Sin, the moon god. He writes about Tamar, the oasis, the desert, the years he spent there excavating the deep past while the present collapsed behind him. He writes about the gods and the temples. He does not write about Belshazzar. In the entire surviving record of Nabonidus's inscriptions, thousands of lines of cuneiform pressed into clay, there is no passage where he acknowledges what his absence cost his son. No grief, no reckoning, no record of the night the boy he left in charge of the world died inside the palace, while a river was being redirected outside the walls.
Cyrus enters Babylon 17 days after it falls. He restores the Akitu festival. He takes the hand of Marduk. He does in his first month what Nabonidus refused to do for 17 years. The priests call it a liberation. They are not wrong. Somewhere in Carmania, the last king of Babylon is still writing. His son has no grave that anyone recorded. His city has a new king. His god has a new servant. And the empire he was given, the walls, the gates, the canals, the blue brick dragons, all of it belongs now to the man who understood that power is not something you can leave in someone else's hands and expect to find intact when you return. It never is.